deep in the heart of Texas.
We're in the business of winning.
Don't bet against me.
I don't bet anyway.
Lose your life.
All right, everyone. Thank you for all the help you gave me with the debate. As you can see behind me on the screen, this is all my notes that I was writing down as people were putting them in the comment section. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Again, you guys really helped out. You know, I work, 8-9 hours a day, and you guys really came through for me. 15 pages of notes here. Some of it spaced out, but again, thanks to everybody. As you can see, I took what all of you guys said and was making notes, so I appreciate that a lot. You guys brought a lot of good stuff. And again, Robert Terrell, big thank you. I'm going to have to hire him as my stat man or something. He was giving me a lot of good stuff. But I thought I'd just do a review of the debate, just more content, go over some stuff. And again, overall, big thanks to Dart and to the guys over at GOAT James Kingdom. Again, anytime someone actually comes prepared and debates and, takes it seriously and comes to win, right, you have to appreciate that. So I did want to say that. And remember, guys, we could have Tug, or we could have the GOAT James Kingdom guys, if that makes sense. Everyone who knows my history with Tug, right, it could be Tug or it could be these guys, right? So we'll definitely take the GOAT James Kingdom guys over Tug 99 times out of 100, right? So I did want to say, though, that I didn't know. Bealey said I was lying about stuff. I don't know what he meant. Again, stretching the truth, or however he wants to put it. I wish he would give an example instead of, again, if someone says something you don't agree with, and just point it out, right? So that was the only thing out of the entire debate, right? That was the only thing that I didn't really like, but it's whatever. It's not a big deal. I don't think he was trying to be like malicious with it, but at the same time, I don't like being called a liar. I can be wrong. I can admit I'm wrong. I have no problem saying, oh, I missed an all-star here, or I missed a category here, or something like that. But to be in a debate that he wasn't even in, and to come in at the end just be like, well, I feel like you're lying, like, all right, dude, whatever. But anyways, that was the only thing that I didn't like. But other than that, overall, it was very good. And again, I'm more than willing to admit I'm wrong on something, right? So, but I wanted to go over some things, just more content, a little post-mortem, right? Just seeing where we were at and some things that were said. So one thing I did miss is that there was, in terms of these advanced analytics, and let me speak on the advanced analytics real quick. The whole point of me bringing up the advanced analytics wasn't so much to talk about advanced analytics, right? I am actually one of these guys that I think advanced analytics can be a little overrated. I do agree with that. I can, they can sort of paint a picture, and in spots they might be able to be helpful, but I'm not a big advanced analytics guy per se. The reason why I brought up the advanced analytics, right, was, again, not so much to bring up advanced analytics, but it was to point out all the times Jordan had led the league in these advanced analytics, right? That was really the main point. I should have drove home that point more, which was what I was trying to do, and it is the picture that I painted, right? So the reason why I wanted to bring them up, right, was to just simply point out how many times Jordan had led the league in these statistics. Again, I was trying to point out the dominance, right? The being the complete alpha of the league for 11 years, essentially, was my argument, right? His 11 full healthy years with the Bulls compared to LeBron's 20, right? That was the picture I was trying to paint. So that's that. And I did miss one, without counting usage rate, because Jordan has an overall higher usage rate and led the league several times in usage rate, more than LeBron has. Not counting that one. Again, usage rate is... it's okay. One thing I wish they would throw into usage rate is assists, which they don't. Usage rate is only the end of a possession. So in other words, when were you involved in the end of a possession? So either a score, a bucket, free throw attempts, or a turnover, right? The end of a possession, right? That's what usage rate essentially goes over, if I'm not mistaken. I wish they would throw assist in there, but then again, they have assist rates. They have turnover rates. So, and for what it's worth, Jordan has a higher usage rate with a lower turnover rate, which I think is important, right? So, in other words, the times that he was involved in the end of a possession, less likely it was a turnover, and more likely it was a bucket or a free throw. But I did miss one. LeBron one time led the league in assist percentage. So you can add one more advanced stat to LeBron's total, which again doesn't really change anything in terms of the argument I was trying to make, right? And again, the main point of the argument, right, was I was trying to... let me zoom in a little bit here. I was trying to point out, again, just how dominant Jordan was in those 11 years, correct? So that's what I was trying to do with that. I didn't mean for it to boil down into like an analytic statistics argument per se. I was just trying to show in terms of leading the league, right, in all these different categories, that Jordan essentially was more dominant, right? His peak led to more times of him dominating the league in these certain things. And just to be clear on the blocks per game, and again, he was saying it's rounded to the nearest tenth, which is technically true. But if we're gonna get technical here, right, and we look at their total blocks for the amount of games that they played, make sure you guys can see that. Jordan actually has almost 0.83 blocks, right? LeBron has 0.75, right? So, again, just to be technical, and if you add playoffs, Jordan still leads in blocks per game, right? Just technically, right? Again, if we're going to give field goal percentage to LeBron, then it's important we get this right too as well. And again, I'm just pointing it out, right? It just is what it is. So the other thing I wanted to go over was some of the shooting percentages in terms of effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage. Now, again, the fact that a shooting guard is only 0.08 different in their field goal percentage is really more of a testament to Jordan than it is LeBron, right? Given how they played, where they played, things like that, where they got their shots from more than the other. And again, LeBron leads, it's fine, but no, again, the fact that you would think a shooting guard essentially has the same field goal percentage as a small forward, especially one like LeBron, who gets, over a third of his shots are a dunk or a layup, being 6'9" with the 40-inch vertical or whatever it is. It's really more of a testament to Jordan. Now, in terms of the effective field goal percentage, and for those who don't know, effective field goal percentage essentially adds in your three-point shooting, right? So it makes sense that LeBron has a higher effective field goal percentage. And one thing I wanted to look at that I found a good little article here. And again, it is what it is. I'm not making excuses or anything, right? But as an example, right? Let's say me, player A, and player B, 10 possessions, we come down and we go 10 for 10 from the three-point line, right? And we have the exact same effective field goal percentage and field goal percentage. Let's say, however, on a defensive possession, I get a steal and I'm going down the other way, and I either get a layup or let's say I even get fouled and I go to shoot 2 free throws. My effective field goal percentage would actually drop compared to my player, because again, it's looking at per possession, right? So on his possessions, he's getting 3 points every possession. I had another possession where I didn't get 3 points, and so essentially it dropped. Even if I even if I have the same field goal percentage, correct? And with that being said, you can even have a higher field goal percentage, as this one's kind of pointing out here. You can have a higher field goal percentage and still have a lower effective field goal percentage, right? Because a guy who maybe takes a few more three-point attempts and hits them, he's going to have a higher effective field goal percentage. He might even have less points, right, than you as well, but he'll have a higher effective field goal percentage. I mean, much like LeBron and Jordan, that's why I'm bringing it up. And so given the fact that Michael Jordan, essentially 95 to 99% of his game was within the arc, right, it makes sense that he has more attempts to get to 30-plus points, and that he has a lower effective field goal percentage, correct? If you break up their points per attempt, per 100 shots, their difference is like 5 to 6 points, including playoffs and regular season, right? It's like 6 for the regular season, 5 for the playoffs, something like that, or vice versa. So again, what does that boil down to? I mean, that boils down to essentially a few more threes per 100 attempts being shot by LeBron, right? And so in terms of the effective and true shooting percentage, it is what it is. But again, if you give it more context, right, and you add another layer to it, it sort of makes sense, right? It explains it. And it's not really a knock on Jordan or a knock on LeBron. It's just sort of explaining why one might be higher than the other, correct? Again, LeBron in his time shoots way more threes, has made way more threes, right? He shoots a slightly better percentage for his career. And that effective field goal percentage difference can largely be explained by that, as well as the points per 100 attempts, right? It's only a difference of 5 or 6 points, right? And giving it context and over your career, right? Or even 100 attempts. That's a lot of attempts, really. That's 3 or 4 games for these guys on average, right? So again, it that can be explained, right? That's not really that big of a deal in terms of that. And again, LeBron's true shooting percentage is essentially 59% for his career. Jordan's true shooting percentage is 57% for his career, right? So again, when you throw in free throws and the threes as well, which is what true shooting percentage is, true shooting percentage accounts for the points per possession on threes and when you add in free throws as well. So again, the effective field goal percentage is like 3.7 or whatever it was. And then when you throw in free throws, it gets down to like 2%, right? So again, over the course of a career, not that big of a deal when you think about how they played and the styles that they played in, etc., right? So there's that. And again, one thing they do in the true shooting percentage is free throws are counted as like 0.44%, right? If you make one, and essentially they're accounting for like and ones, or if you shoot 3 free throws on a foul on a 3-pointer, correct? So you could point out a flaw here or there, something like that, but it's not a big deal, right? Another thing I didn't understand that they disagreed with was, using their competition chart here. If you look at again, Jordan in his first 4 years, there was no third team. He overall played more first team in 37 playoff series compared to LeBron's 53. LeBron has played 55% more playoff series than Jordan, right? And again, I don't know if they're getting confused when I say on average, right? On average, Jordan played more all-NBA selections, more all-defensive selections. On average, he played more Sixth Man of the Years, more MVPs, more runner-up MVPs. And one thing they didn't do in their competition chart was that they didn't use who got second, right? Like Jordan shouldn't be penalized because he led the league in scoring 10 times and steals 3 times, right? Who got second? You should count that as well. And especially when you count that, Jordan played a much higher average of those guys than LeBron, because Karl Malone got second 1 year in scoring. Mookie Blaylock got 1 year was second in steals. And there was one other scorer behind Jordan. I can't remember who it is. And the other one was Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins 1 year was second in points as well behind Jordan. Okay, so this video was 10 months ago, so that would encompass last year. Okay, so again, this is their competition chart right here, right? And, again, what they do is they do totals, right? But if you look at on average, right? Because remember, essentially LeBron played 50% more playoff series than Jordan, right? So if LeBron doesn't have, if you take Jordan's number, divide it by 2, add it on to Jordan's total, if LeBron doesn't have more than that for whatever respective category, then essentially Jordan on average faced a higher competition, right? So if we look at their comp here, just looking at their comp, right, and I think they missed a Sixth Man of the Year in Ricky Pierce. I think it was in 1990 Eastern Conference first round. Yeah, 1989-90 Sixth Man of the Year, for those who can't see that. So they missed Ricky Pierce in terms of a sixth man. Maybe I'm missing something there. I looked it up. I think they played each other. He was healthy for that time, right? But again, you look at the MVPs, right? So they each have 3 in terms of who they played, right? So on average, Jordan faced more MVPs. All NBAs, on average, Jordan faced more All NBAs. On average, you face more All Defenses. The All-Stars, so that's like 30. So they've played roughly about the same amount of All-Stars. Although I think if you were to be technical about it, that would be like 29 more All-Stars. Technically, Jordan, I think, has a few more just going off of this on average, right? Defensive Player of the Year, Jordan faced more on average. And again, Sixth Man of the Year, I think they missed Ricky Pierce here because Jordan also played Bill Walton, who was Sixth Man as well. Maybe for some reason they didn't count that. But either way, on average, still more Sixth Man of the Year. And then you go to 20 point per game scorers, more on average. 10 plus rebounds per game, more on average. 10 assists per game, more on average. More steals, more blocks per game average. And again, they do the scoring champ. Again, if we throw in, 2 more scoring champs for Jordan, that would, because of Malone and Dominique, that would be 2. He would have 3 total, so that would be more on average. And there'd be 1 more steals leader if we count Blaylock, who got second 1 year behind Jordan, and they would essentially 3. Yeah, so they'd be about the same on that on average as well. And again, I think using the rebound leader, assist leader, block leader, I think using the leaders, I think that's something they kind of fish for, in my opinion. Or maybe they did go in wanting to honestly look at it, I suppose. It just kind of comes off as a weird one because it's only one player, right? So, what are you going to do if the best rebounder, David Robinson or Akeem or whatever, was constantly in the West, right? Just, I don't know, it seems kind of like not important, right? This was also another point, was like Pippen was an all-star and an all-NBA and an all-defensive NBA, right? That's still only one player, right? One player having, even if you were going to argue that Pippen is better than Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh individually, comparing them, right? Having Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh as 2 other options out of 5 players, right, is a bigger difference than just having the other guy who might be slightly better than both of them, right? Again, you're trying to put your best 5 on the floor. And so having another all-star, even if if you have 2 all-stars and I only have 1 other all-star, right? Even if my 1 other all-star might be slightly better than your other 2s on an individual basis, your other 2 still, compensate for more players, more production, more things that they are able to do, matchups, situations, right? All kinds of different things you're able to do with more players, right? Again, Kukoc got a Sixth Man of the Year. Yeah, LeBron. So in for all the defensive help you could say that Jordan might have had in terms of Pippen being a stopper and Rodman being a rebounder, right? LeBron's had way more offensive help, correct? And I will stand by this, right? In terms of just a year-to-year singular basis, Anthony Davis in 2019, 2020 again, in my opinion, is easily the best player in just 1 year snapshots, right? If you go by any 1 year, Anthony Davis was by far the best player either of them ever had for that 1 year. Anthony Davis was an absolute monster. He got 6 in MVP voting by himself that year. And he was first team all defense, first team all NBA. He was like top 10 in points. Anthony Davis was incredible in 2019-2020. So again, even going, this is where B. Lee said I was lying. Maybe he was thinking of this. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it was the advanced statistics. Again, the advanced statistics, I was going year by year, how many times they led the league in advanced statistics. I missed one time that LeBron led the league in assist percentage. Again, I was using the main advanced metrics, but again, even if you want to throw that in, it doesn't really change the argument. And again, Jordan played against more competition on average in terms of the help. You know, this is where getting into the titles can be a little misleading, right? Because again, like in 2016, Kyrie wasn't an All-Star or All-NBA. Kyrie Irving was an All-NBA in 2015, and I understand he got hurt in the finals. But in 2016, right, it goes the other way, right? Like, he absolutely balled out in 2016. You could say he was an all-star level talent. He was an all-NBA talent for that year in 2016 during, when they won it, right? So sometimes getting the all-NBA and the all-defense and the all-star requires a little bit more of a deeper dive a little bit. But yeah, I mean, just looking at this, right? Essentially, this is Pippen and Rodman, all the help, which is just 2 players. And he only had one of those guys for the second three-peat. And again, Jordan only ever played with one other All-Star his entire career, and that was Pippen. Even on the Wizards, no one made an All-Star for what it's worth. And another interesting fact I'd heard is that once Jordan got another All-Star on his team, once Pippen made his first All-Star team, Jordan never lost another playoff series, which I think is pretty remarkable, and I want to double check that because that sounds almost too good to be true. Let's see, in 89-90 he was an All-Star. They lost in the conference finals. Okay, so he lost one series with Pippen. Once Pippen made an All-Star team, Jordan lost one playoff series, which is pretty incredible, right? I'm trying to think of anything else I missed during the debate that was brought up. He talked about the 4 All-Star teams, right? And Boston and Atlanta. And again, the reason why no one really thought of them, I believe 3 out of the 4 Boston guys were bench picks, and all 4 of the Atlanta Hawks guys were bench picks, right? And I think even one of the Boston guys was written in because Dwayne Wade was hurt that year. Oh my God, there's 454 comments on this video. Last time I looked at it, it was like 50. I wasn't able to dive into this. I didn't do the best job during the debate in terms of relaying this. But of the 24 series during their playoff runs, I saw a graph that kind of broke it down. I guess I could find it, but it's on NBA Reddit somewhere. And essentially, of the 24 playoff series Mike and Pippen played together on their finals runs, Jordan guarded the tougher assignment more times than Pippen. And just a quick rundown of some of the things I looked up with Jordan, right, and these defensive times that people think of him, right? Again, LeBron has the chase down block on Iguodala, which didn't even really matter in the end. Iguodala could have made that shot, and they still would have won with Kyrie. I believe it was Game 6. Kyrie Irving still would have won the game for him, with or without that block, and even if Iguodala makes it, it doesn't matter. They bring up Derrick Rose all the time. That was literally within, it was 1 quarter at the most. Again, good job for LeBron. He got him for that quarter. That's fine. But again, they think of that, and I guess the block on Thiago Splitter or whatever when they played San Antonio. But again, these were some of the things I wasn't really able to bring up just because 3-minute rounds, you got to be quick. 91 Eastern Conference Finals. Detroit averaged only 0.79 points per play, with Jordan as the primary defender and shot just 35%. '98 Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7. He held Reggie to one shot in the fourth quarter. Again, Reggie coming off the 2-3 picks in a single set, so that does mean something, right? Game 3 of the '91 Finals, I brought this one up when Pippen had fouled out. And by the way, Magic Johnson cooked both Rodman and Pippen, even though Pippen did a slightly better job. But again, you also have to think about the amount of energy exerted by Jordan on the offensive end, and to be as good as he was defensively as well is incredible, right? And so I think putting Pippen on him, on Magic, was the right call, right? Even just from that standpoint. But again, Game 3 of the '91 Finals, Pippen fouled out, and Jordan essentially held Magic to 0-0-0 with one turnover in overtime. '92 Finals, Drexler did average his points per game the same as he did in the regular season, but he shot 7 or 8% points less, with a lot of those made buckets coming in transition on other players. For what it's worth, Terry Porter was actually a decent scorer in '92 as well, averaging 22 points, 52% from the field, and 47% three during the '92 playoffs leading up to the finals. And essentially, Jordan largely guarded Terry, held him to 16 points per game, 47% from the field, but 23% from three. '93 Finals, Game 3, Kevin Johnson had scored 23 points before Jordan guarded him with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Kevin Johnson had 2 points the rest of the game, including 3 overtimes. So again, it wasn't just 7 minutes, but also 3 overtimes. Kevin Johnson, by the way, really underrated player. And I think this is still true. He's one of 3 players to ever average 20 and 10 for 3 straight years. Penny Hardaway only scored 1 total point with Jordan guarding him during the entire 1996 Eastern Conference Finals. That's a big one. Peyton, 96 in the first 3 rounds, was averaging 22 on 50%. He only got 18 on 44% in the finals. In the 4 playoff series they played the Pistons, he held Isaiah Thomas to essentially 40%, which was about 7 or 8% below his average in the regular season that year. In the playoffs, I think, might be more like 6%, but essentially holding the main point guard to 40% is always good. And then another one I found was in '97, Steve Smith. He was one of the 20-point per game scorers I found. He had averaged 20 points per game on 43%. MJ held him to 18 points per game on 32%, right? So that was another one. Those are just some notable ones I wanted to mention. And then also an interesting one that someone had shown me was looking at Pippen versus Oakley, right? Jordan's first season came in '88. That correlated with Pippen's rookie season. But again, people want to say, oh, like Pippen was the difference. I'm not saying he wasn't, right? But again, Jordan scored more. Jordan was averaging 35 points per game, 6 assists per game, 5.5 rebounds, 3.2 steals per game, and 1.6 blocks per game, which is most ever by a guard, by the way. And that was also the year he had 200 plus steals, 100 plus blocks. The only person to ever do that twice, which I think I brought up. And also won the All-Star MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and MVP, and a scoring champ, I believe, as well as first team selections on both sides, I believe. But comparing Pippen to Oakley, right? Charles Oakley, it doesn't quite fit the narrative, right, to bring up how good Oakley was, right? But he played more minutes, more points per game, definitely more rebounds per game, more assists per game, slightly less steals and slightly less blocks, shooting a better field goal percentage and free throw percentage than Pippen, right? So again, like, it's really hard and baffling why people stick so hard to that early part of Jordan's career where he absolutely balled out and did everything he could and was playing against much better top-end teams during the expansion era, right? Again, you can make that what you will, but the whole like, oh, well, once Pippen got there, well, if you actually look at what Pippen did, it wasn't because of Pippen, right? Like, Pippen didn't come in and just start filling up the box score. I mean, hell, he was only playing 20, 21 minutes a game, right? So, you know, it's just that whole Pippen thing to me is very, Very odd. And again, I also brought up this, comparing both of them at 1,072 games in, which is how many games Jordan played in total in his career, including Washington. Jordan had more points. He had more offensive rebounds, more steals, more blocks, a better PER, more win shares total, accumulative, more titles, finals MVPs, more All-Stars, a defensive player of the year, and more all first-team defenses. Yeah, higher points per game, higher offensive rebounds per game, steals per game, blocks per game, more win shares per game. So that was another one. And this is one thing I also was going to get into. It just kind of didn't come up in the time that we had. But these are like some of the more notable things that Jordan is the best at, or number one at, right? So we're not even comparing him to LeBron. Again, if we want to talk about being the greatest, right, we just want to bring up Jordan, some of the things that he's done. Obviously, points per game, including playoffs, regular season and playoffs. Highest points per game in a single playoff series. Highest PER ever. Highest win shares per 48 in both the regular season and the playoffs. All-time playoff box plus minus. Offensive box plus minus all-time, including playoffs. He has the best value over replacement season of all time, including 7 of the top 15, which is absolutely incredible. The best singular game score of all time, most points in a single playoff game, and winning 7 honors in 1 year, which, to be honest, Bill Russell probably would have got, if you throw in blocks and rebounds, and he probably would have won a lot of the same awards. So Bill Russell probably would have done that as well at some point. Most points per game ever by a player who's won Defensive Player of the Year. Only one of 3 guards to win Defensive Player of the Year. Most blocks per game for a season and all time by a guard. Dwayne Wade has slightly more blocks for his career, but Jordan has more blocks per game. In my opinion, Jordan's the best shot blocking guard of all time. Oh yeah, the Emmit Smith. A guy came on there and said Emmit Smith was the best running back of all. People consider him the best running back of all time because he has the most yards per game. That is not true, man. Even as a Cowboys fan, I can tell you that people do not consider Emmit Smith the best running back of all time, right? And even as me as a Cowboys fan, as much as I love Emmit, I think he's overhated because I do think he was smart, read holes, was patient, was tough and durable. He was what he needed to be. And again, if you're going to play against an all-time great offensive line, well, the least you can do is rack up the most yards of all time, right? So again, most people who are football fans or are into the game, especially comparing running backs, no one thinks Emmett is the best running back of all time for the most part, right? Yes, he's one of the greats, absolutely, as he deserves to be, but he is largely not considered the greatest running back of all time. Again, this was the point I was trying to make, right? Is LeBron really a better rebounder than David Robinson? No way. If you put up 100 shots and you had David Robinson and LeBron James underneath the basket, just those two guys, and you essentially just said, we're just going to see who gets the most rebounds out of 100 attempts, right? I'm sorry, but David Robinson's winning that battle 9 times out of 10, right? Jason Kidd's made more threes than Dirk, Peja, Durant. And they literally said that Kidd is a better 3-point scorer because of that, right? It's just this is where, like, when you go into debates, you're, as much as you would like to say you're going to win the debate, no one's going to change their mind, right? This is why it's really for entertainment, right? It's for the content, right? Give the people what they want is really what it's about, right? Because are any of us really going to say something so profound or absolutely BTFO our opponent to the point of, where they go, man, my entire worldview and view on this thing has changed. You're right, Jordan is the greatest, or you're right, LeBron's better, right? It's not going to happen, right? So you can't really go in expecting to change anyone's mind, right? It's for the content, right? It's for the people, and so yeah, that's why you kind of have to go in. You're just going to try to make your points, right? But again, some of those things I disagree on, obviously, and they disagree with me. But the one thing I can't really agree on, right, is the constantly saying that more, just because you have more of something means you're better, right? Again, like I said in the MJ video, they can have a lot of overlap. They can sometimes be very synonymous with each other. But at the end of the day, they don't mean the same thing in terms of being greater or having the most of something. So yeah, that's about it. Just wanted to do a quick recap. Again, it was a good debate. I appreciate those guys coming on and everything. But yeah, I mean, that was it. That was just some things I wanted to go over. Just kind of putting a bow on it. And more stuff for you guys to watch over the holidays. So, yeah, as always, see you guys on the next one.